Howdy, gang. We're back with BoCo. No Marcio, because that is the BoCo tradition. And we just wanted to do something different, something quick, and it's still going to come out nice and early for the champion. So thank you if you've been supporting the channel as a champion. I know it's different to the other BoCo you've been getting, but wanted to still give you consistent BoCo as opposed to several week droughts like has happened previously.
It's a fireside chat with Tom and Andrew where we talk about a high tier deck that nobody cares about but us.
Yeah, so if you were thinking about a deck that you need to pick to a regional or like EU Nats, I mean, this will be out for the public by EU Nats, but if you want to scam Glasgow with a best of one,
Yeah,
toolbox,
if you like a hella good EX7 deck, I have a hella good EX7 deck for you.
and if you really wanted us to talk about Hexeblaumon and wanted to know more about it, and you didn't want to trudge through the last 2 times we talked about it, here's your Hexeblaumon primer.
All right, let's get at it. We're gonna talk about Galaxy, or Day Night Cycle, or Light Fang Night Claw. We're gonna do the whole shebang. So we're not starting with a list because we're going to put cards in and go through things one at a time, just to make you aware of like how things work. But broadly speaking, when you go to start making a Light Fang Night Claw / Galaxy deck, and we're not, we'll probably will briefly cover the turn skip thing, but we're not going to make that the main emphasis of this deck today because we're going to talk about like what the deal is with these cards. So whenever I start building a list, I literally just search the word Light Fang into the search bar, and we can just get at it. We can go over everything this way. Nice and easy. Digimon, as Andrew likes to do his profiles here on the channel, Digimon starts with eggs, so maybe we should too. You want to go ahead and pull up Coronamon for me, guy? You can just search Light Fang. It'll have everything for us there. So, yeah, we're going to talk about Sunmon. We're going to start with Sunmon. Look at me, fake fan. Sunmon is that Digi-egg of choice for pretty much this deck in perpetuity going forwards. It's a red level 2 Digi-egg as opposed to an unleveled Digi-egg because we have a few of those now. It is a Light Fang tagged Digi-egg, which comes up for a couple things. We'll talk about those in a minute. But its main egg effect is your turn. Once per turn, when an effect places the top card of this Digimon into its Digivolution cards, this Digimon may Digivolve into a card in your hand with the cost reduced by 1. Couple important things there. Weird that the top card would get placed into your Digimon sources. That's just a thing this deck does. It reverts its own evolutions frequently, and then on occasion has like synergy with doing that for other cases. And then the second thing is nowhere in here in this effect is listing anything tribal. That's going to come up. That's part of what makes this deck so powerful as a toolbox engine. Is that Sunmon lets you basically turn random 4 or 3 cost evolutions into incredible tempo swings out of nowhere. So Sunmon is the strongest Digi-egg this deck plays. On occasion, we've seen things like Gurimon or other red eggs. And then on even rarer occasion, we've seen Moonmon, who has the effect where you play a tagged Tamer. You can do a free evolution. An evolution of basically Blitz Step. It's pretty useful.
Yeah. One other thing to note
Sunmon,
is that
main guy.
It is a timing thing, so you do have to commit to it when you revert. This Digimon may Digivolve, but you can't, like, it's not your next Digivolution, so it's not like you could revert, say, a training, do it. It does have to be your next action, so you are using it as a combo initiator, even if it's not like, you know, the first time an effect places. It's what, you know, when you're doing it, you're declaring the effect, and then you're evolving as soon as you're done resolving the revert.
Very true. Yeah, Sunmon, main powerhouse of the deck. Going to go over 2 level 3s. So let's talk about Coronamon and Lunamon. I would say they are probably the like main kind of go-to pieces that make this deck work overall. So Coronamon, start where they do, is a 1000 DP, 3 play cost, level 3 red Digimon. It evolves for 0 over red and red and blue level 2s, or for 0 over Light Fang and Night Claw eggs. And at start of main, if you have a Tamer with the traits, you gain a memory. In the inherit, this is the big one, is main once per turn, placing the top card of this Digimon with the Light Fang or Night Claw trait as its bottom Digivolution card, you gain 2. So this card is how you facilitate an overwhelming amount of your memory manipulation and card cycle. When you describe a like toolbox Galaxy deck to someone, the easiest way you'll be able to do that is by discussing it as a tempo deck that has incredible memory manipulation and a very easy time cycling through and filtering and drawing just a really high number of cards. it basically does all of its lines from level 4 because of these cards. The Coronamon and Lunamon that we'll talk about in a second has the same inherit, which is that once you've made the first level 4 and you've done its effect, you can basically revert it for nothing because they all evolve for 2, essentially giving you a free draw in cycle and effect. And then starting to use the egg, you can go up again even further. So the deck basically just gets, by default, 1 extra draw for Digivolve a turn. And in some cases, it gets even more extreme than that. So, and then Coronamon isn't just an inherit. On occasion, people will use it to just spark out a raising area and start building, but it's very good. In most cases, though, Lunamon is the stronger of the two. Lunamon is the same exact profile as Coronamon. It's 3 play cost, 1 DB, same evolved conditions, but it's a start of main. By returning one of your Digimon to their owner's hand, gain 2 memory. So, a lot of neat stuff. Lunamon lets you get around some things by doing this. You can recycle boards if you've built a stack that you just need to return, or you've got a board state where you're, for example, playing a certain Haktua fish level 5 that you need to continuously cycle your moving cards around. She lets you facilitate that.
She can save.
Yep, you can pick up your taunt stuff. You can safely disarm the tokens from Leviamon boards using this card. Lots of really strong value out of that effect. And then the same main effect again. So these are your bread and butter cards. When we're talking about a core of this deck and its engine, these are the only 8 level 3s that I would say are like mandatory. You must play 4 of each of these for like your core to truly function. They are the bread and butter. They are the ways you cheat your memory. They are the ways that you access your continuous draw. It's a really big deal that you have the card. And you will probably continue to play them until future actually tagged support comes out. There is a third rookie. It is not necessarily going to constitute something we talk about as like a core card, but it does see pretty consistent play. It's just not like a true toolbox piece.
And the main difference is the inherit, because like we said, the combo starting really does come from the fact that you tend to non-committal make a level 4, gain a bunch of memory, and then extend further. Whereas this Agumon, if it's your first rookie out of raising, you have no extenders, it feels really bad. You will notice that it has on play rather than a start of main, because this card is supposed to be played as an extender rather than as your initiator. It is reveal top 3, add 1 Light Fang and 1 Night Claw or a 2-color card among them. So you're always adding a Light Fang, and then it is a Night Claw or a 2-color. There's no color requirements on it, strangely enough, just to future-proof it for when Light Fang and Night Claw fully divorce. Does mean you can pick up weird shit like Death X.
Yeah, I used it to pick up Death X's. It's also supposed to be much like how we'll talk about the Galgamon in here in a minute. Both of the pieces that were given to this deck are independently supposed to support their core archetypes. So this Agumon can find itself and basically every other card in the Shine Greymon deck. So that's the kind of intended line. Quirky little mono yellow Agumon. Again, a useful tool, but does not see consistent usage as a core. But remember that we talked about it when you leave a YouTube comment. Now we're going to talk about the 4s. We're going to play 12 of them. I know it sounds crazy because you're playing 8 rookies, but 12 4s really, broadly speaking, does constitute a core. You will see on occasion lists that make variations to that count. But overwhelmingly, it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
We'll start with the Galgamon, because we were talking about flex pieces, and because the other two, as you'll kind of find, is just another carbon copy of each other. So the Galgamon, both players draw 1 to play in the Galgamon engine. Then if you have 8 or more cards, this Digimon has 3 or more Digivolution cards. So for example, this is your second level 4 that you've made after going 4, revert, evolve, because then you would have the rookie, the egg, and the 4 you just reverted. You gain 1 memory. So basically a 1-cost Evo, sometimes after you have gained 2. And since it's a 1-cost Evo as well, like you're reducing the cost of your Evo with the Sunmon. So most of the time, this thing just sparks for you doing the game plan, which is not normal.
It's incredible. Generic jamming is insane. One of the things to remember is anytime you read a level 4 piece of text, remember that these cards frequently end up underneath things. So this Galgamon reads jamming as an inherit the first time you evolve it, and then if you revert it, your stack now has jamming. So lots of good use out of this card. It is definitely the strongest wave of support this deck got outside of its original release that's tagged, at least.
It also does make the Agumon kind of even more of a stinker, because the minus 3k into your opponent's security in theory means that the rest of your line is bigger, but who needs to be bigger when you just have...
Yeah. That's absolutely true. I wish Card App still had its side deck tool that we could use that. Or yours does for some reason.
Yeah, mine
That's
does.
weird.
I don't know how to put that.
The Galgamon sees, like, so we kind of beat around the bush a little bit here. One of the things you'll notice when it comes to talking about this deck is that there's different deck building approaches to it, and people play packages with it. We're not going to build you a 50 card list here. We're going to show you a core and talk about things people do with them. But this card is named Galgamon. So it works with all the Thomas Norstein Gaumon support, and it is insane for doing so. If you've not seen somebody swing multiple Gaumons with jamming and just like unsuspend with BT4 Thomas a bunch of times, that deck can do that to you. People will also abuse Thomas in different ways. We can talk about that in a bit. But yeah, Galgamon very powerful. And in a vacuum is probably the strongest generic level 4 this deck has. Because its other 2 level 4s are another set of matching identical cards. We have Phyramon and Lekismon. Phyramon and Lekismon, again, just like Coronamon and Lunamon, feature identical profiles in terms of cost, stats, and usage, except they're kind of mirrored. So they go on play when Digivolving. Reveal the top 3 of your deck, add a Light Fang and a Night Claw, or a Night Claw and a Light Fang. And with the opposite tag, also the choice to take a Galaxy card. As of this release of this video, the only Galaxy Digimon in the whole game is still Grace Novamon, the intended level 7 DNA boss monster of this deck, which does see some play, so that's a relevant effect to be able to search it, but overwhelmingly people use this to draw an Evo and then reveal top 3 and take 2 cards. It's very good. These searchers are supremely powerful. They are also on play, so if you need to conserve your pieces and then just bounce it with a Lunamon on the next start of main, that's something you can do. Basically pays for your first Evo, and then you get to revert. Again, we kind of said Lunamon, broadly speaking, a little bit more powerful. That's one of those things.
Yeah, it really comes down to which inherit you want. Do you want to be bigger in your opponent's turn or bigger on your turn? Again, thanks to jamming, you kind of just afford to prioritize blue pieces because you can be big on your opponent's turn and have jamming.
Yeah, and because this is a Digimon story game reference, the entire effect of these inherits is not tagged because these guys can turn into all sorts of stuff. So Phyramon and Lekismon will give anything to KDP on either turn. So bear that in mind as we keep talking. These Digimon get huge. We'll talk about the 5s next. I think we should start with Cressamon and then talk about Flareamon this time. Cressamon definitely the stronger of the 2 at the moment, but the format has ebbs and flows, and on occasion, we'll probably talk about the Hina version in a second, where Flareamon is definitely the guy you want. But Cressamon is a house. This card is fantastic. Play cost 7 KDP, just like Flareamon in a second. And it evolves over for 3 over blue and red 4s or the tags. And the effect is when it would be played or digivolved into, if you have a Digimon with 3 or more Digivolution cards, which is essentially just one thing out of raising plus a reversion, you can reduce the evolution or play cost by 2. So you can either evolve for 1 or play for 5. And both of those effects are fantastic. Because on play and when Digivolving, it chooses one of your opponent's Digimon and tells it can't suspend until the end of their turn. So if you don't like losing to bugs, this is a great tool. Broadly speaking, this is Blue Flare hasn't gotten it yet because they tried to divvy Blue Flare up a little bit in BT19, but another thing to point out is that this is still the same effect as the level 4s. It's just opponent's turn to KDP, and the red one is the same thing, but it's your turn. What the shit else is there to say? This card is fantastic. Flaremon's here too. Flareamon is neat. He is a 5k pop, which does come up. 5k is a very relevant number. In some cases, it was so relevant that people ran Gigimon BT12. Not something we're going to talk about in the core here, but popping 6ks meant you popped basically all the chump blockers in the format, which is fantastic. So, and the 2 KDP, it can't be stressed enough that when you evolve for 1 and revert for 2 plus memory, every evolution into a 5 after a certain point is sort of free memory. And again, kind of plays into the tempo-oriented game plan of this deck. And once you've built a stack with numbers of sources that kind of horrify your opponent, we have Apollomon and Dianamon to put on top of these cards. They are not the only 6s we'll talk about today, but they are the intended lines. Apollomon first, because this is my dude. When Digivolving Blitz, because I never leave home without it, and it's your turn. For every 3 cards in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, this Digimon gains +1 security attack. This is so good, dude. I don't need to explain to you that you can probably routinely get this thing to be a 3-check abomination with Blitz once you've cleared out your opponent's pieces. but it is your turn when a card is then removed from your opponent's security, which is essentially, this is written the same way Takuya BT12 is, or Koromon BT14. This triggers on the first security being removed before your subsequent checks take place. You delete one of your opponent's Digimon with less DP or equal than this Digimon. So if you've got, like, let's just say 3 red inherits that aren't Coronamon, this thing pops 18,000 DP Digimon. Which is so sick. It's also worth reiterating that, like, if you're afraid of your red or blue deck not having, like, red has less of a bad time with Shoto Mother because you can just raid in a lot of those decks, but, like, it sucks that I can't get around this 15k blocker. Bro, just be 22,000 DP. Who cares? Oh. It's a pretty good plan. Apollomon and Dianamon, you're going to see something here. They both Digivolve for 4. Part of that is that the Sunmon, in fact, is supposed to kind of subsequently, like, help you with that by reducing the cost down to 3 and playing under Memsider thresholds. But, like, you're printing memory in this deck, man. I'm not going to hold you.
And you have Blitz. So even if that, you just kill them at the end of your turn.
Yep. I would say at the moment, most deck cores of Apollomon are probably looking at 2 or 3 copies. I like where Andrew's put that card. But we'll talk about Dianamon next, who, more broadly speaking, it's weird. She's definitely a stronger effect at the moment, but she's sort of sat on the side at the minute for reasons we'll go over in a second.
Yeah, as we'll kind of touch on, she is like because these cards are both technically generic, she was like, we touted it as like the blue card all-star. We thought that like Blue Flare was going to steal this. We thought that a bunch of cards were going to steal this. But paradoxically, because she is blue card all-star, she now competes with other generic blue card all-stars to do things in her slot, whereas Apollomon does not really have nearly as much competition. You're not going to make a raid Wargreymon instead. You're going to make Apollo and you're going to hit someone. Whereas Diana, a little bit more defensive, has blocker, has when Digivolving when attacking once per turn for each card in its sources, trash 1, and it is target choice. But most regular gameplay, you're taking everything and would have had sources to spare. And then something with no, all of your opponent's Digimon with no sources cannot suspend. So it is like Sorai, so if they did evolve over it, they would be able to suspend again. But in most cases, it does mean that you will be not having to worry about blocks. You don't have to worry about like Bloomlord, Sunflowermon, that kind of thing. And also all turns when opponent's Digivolution cards are trashed, unsuspend this Digimon. Which means, in theory, if something bad were to happen to their sources during their turn, you can still unsuspend after blocking once already.
This card's amazing. Andrew mentioned that it has sort of, broadly speaking, had to compete with like other generically powerful blue cards. Part of that is that it is a just sort of powerful source strip effect in of itself, and blocker is just good utility in the format. But the unique thing that this card gives you that we're going to not have in our other blue level 6s is that it is Night Claw tagged. And it's important to think about that when you think about Apollomon and Dianamon, that when you make a level 6 in this deck, it is often the end of your time using that one stack that you've made. But with these two, that's not true. You can make a Dianamon, source strip some stuff. If you strip an ace, you keep turn. If you keep your memory from other effects, or you've printed enough just by climbing and manipulating your memory resource, Dianamon can keep you turn. You can set the whole board up under a floodgate that will linger even when she's not in play. Revert her, make an Apollomon. Now that the board can't block you, you just absolutely dome somebody. So
makes your
there's a lot of relevant pieces.
Makes your Shine Greymon matchup unlosable. Just straight up unlosable.
Make yourself so big on your opponent's turn so they can't DP minus you, and then just laugh at their Marcus Daemons that can't go sideways. First mode did make it a little worse, but you can. I believe in you, chat. You can get big enough. I think we probably look at Diana as like a 2 of at the moment. And the last card I would say in terms of like a true like core deck archetype that you can't play this deck without it is EX5's red Memsetter Coincido. It's a red Memsetter, costs 4, not 5. And it is start a turn if you have 2 or fewer memory set to 3, and then on play and main, by suspending this Tamer and placing the top card of one of your Light Fang or Night Claw trait Digimon as the bottom Digivolution card, just like the level 3 inherits do. One of your guys may evolve into a Digimon card in your hand without paying the cost. So, this does a couple things. It is a free Evo. The tag is in a very specific place in that paragraph of text. It is returning the top of a Light Fang Night Claw Digimon to the bottom, evolve into any Digimon without paying the cost. This is where the toolbox comes in. If you've made, let's say, for example, if you've used this card and a stack of pieces and you've made a Dianamon to totally shrink the board of all sources and just absolutely neuter something, you can tap Coinsio, put Dianamon back in the sources, and turn into a Mirage or a Hexeblaumon from EX7. And this is where the strength of the deck comes in. Using this card and your existing level 6s and really efficient tempo pieces and draw, you can just over and over and over again abuse the strongest red and blue Digimon in the game. This deck is so good.
It does become that one and done in terms of if you go into the non-archetypal piece, you no longer fit the requirements, so you now actually have to commit to your level 6. But in most cases, that level 6 has hopefully done everything you need it to do before you then do things. Also, it being an on-play does mean if this card pops out of security, there can be times where you have committed your Apollomon, your turn has ended, they first check security, out comes Coinsio, suddenly your Apollomon turns into a Mirage, turns into a Hexeblaumon, more importantly turns into Dianamon, which then source strips, unsuspends, and probably just causes someone to skip. This card is a heinous security bomb because you will draw so many cards in this deck that you can probably figure out when it's going to be in security or not. And if you're playing as many of them as you probably should be, one of them will show up in security, and it's a free cycle on your opponent's turn. It's a free potential floodgate to pop out of nowhere. It's a really, really solid card.
Can't say enough good stuff about the Mem Setter. It is the main engine in its entirety, and it lets you abuse everything under the sun. I think that, broadly speaking, is the full package of Light Fang Night Claw pieces. And by my count, I'm looking at let me just count this again. Oh no, I refreshed the tab, so I've lost it. Oh no, here it is. I'm looking at let's say it's 4 of everything level 6 level 5 and under, and then let's say 3 and 2 for our 6s and 4 Mem Setters. That's 37 cards. I think this constitutes the really rough shell of the deck. You can then play Agumons, one-ofs, and stuff like that and pad things out, but broadly speaking, this is where I think you start when you make a list, which is exciting because then you get to add other things. You're playing red eggs, and red at the moment is missing some stuff. We've got Solarmon, and that card is very good if you hate losing to Demon Lords and Royal Knights. But there's also, coming soon, there's a new Shamamon, which is essentially a Mem blocker, which is very good. Gaussmon exists, the BT5 one, which is your opponent can't reduce Digivolution costs floodgate. So you get to play a lot of good floodgate pieces. The deck very famously loves stealing. If you played a true Galaxy make Grace Novamon variant, you were playing the Blue Tamer Sio and Co. The card now more infamous for just being a kind of under-tagged nightmare, which facilitates some stuff it shouldn't do. I've seen a lot of people talk about how it shouldn't do it at the start of your turn. I think that's crazy. I just think it should have been eroded, but that's how it is. Let's go over some other stuff. I feel like the Tamers are the next place to go, so we can talk about because the Tamers kind of lead you to the tech you play. Yeah. Can't go fast this point without talking about Louis. BT, promo Louis, I think he's promo 1, 2, 3? Or is that Ukomon? I never remember.
He is 1 3.
That's it. This schmuck, God bless him, he's on the ban list at 1 for a reason. But this card facilitated just an inordinate amount of memory when you promoted your body, your first rookie out of raising, to just make donuts and stack on people. And it lets you do this over and over again if you needed to have access to a rebuild where it was oh, my first thing is there and I had a rookie in the back. I will just use this to promote the second thing and start doing a loop again. Or use that to help facilitate a lethal push, which was really strong. The card is at 1 now for good reason. The game is better for having it at 1. But this card sees play in overwhelming basically every topping version of this deck I've seen plays this card at 1. It's just a very useful tool to have because, again, in a world where your Tamers are going sideways, just to use your effects, you're probably in a hybriding for games. So this card can help facilitate that in a lot of senses. Equally good White Tamer Digimon Emperor, same thing, just trying to sort of facilitate how much memory you're manipulating. An Emperor is great because you're already doing a lot of debilitating floodgate popping, or your big stuff is attacking over things where you're trying to slow the game down so that you can just unfairly draw and accrue resources. This card basically just lets you play at your pace. Stop your opponent promoting and then draw cards when you pop stuff. Really good. There's nothing as the dopamine hit when this thing goes sideways after you made a Flaremon, and it's oh dude, I paid 1 to Evo and popped, drew, and then tapped Emperor and drew. It's what the heck is going on? Very good cards. Want to do a couple brief package highlights here. We're going to talk about Thomas H. Norstein. This card has not topped in a ton of the variants of the deck, but it is still worth talking about regardless because there are tons of versions that play. Basically, Thomas is a great search term in this deck because you straight up can play basically every card that list revealed. This is obviously, it's a blue blue tamer card. It's on play, draw one. Nice and generic for a deck just trying to draw a million cards. And we mentioned earlier, it just lets you generically unsuspend anything with Gao in the name. So just go get him, Galgamon. Swing it over and over and over again. It's so good in a lot of cases that people play this card with the restricted to 1 EX4 Mock Galgamon, which is a just generic unsuspend. And they also play it with BT11 Mirage. You're going to see BT11 Mirage in basically every blue deck you've played in the next little while. You might even start seeing it in Imperial if the format looks the way it did in the East. But yeah, BT11 Mirage he's a floodgate, so this is a great thing to pass your turn on. When you basically have done your revert and put your 6s back down into your sources, you can go into this guy for cost nothing using the Tamer, and then have him make them bounce the security. So he can end your turn, set up a floodgate, and debilitate your opponent's security. It's incredible. And then if you have Thomas, and you've got Mirage, you might see where I'm going here. In a lot of cases, this deck actually used to abuse burst mode. It is not a one and done, but you do draw a shit ton of cards, and having a burst mode basically just represents an unmitigated amount of lethal damage is something this deck abused really well. So, yeah, that's sort of the Mirage package. I would say most decks at the moment, if you play like a Toolbox, the EX4 Mock Galgamon is pretty consistently in here. You'll see that at one a lot of the time. But when you're looking at Mirage, probably 2 copies, maybe 3 copies. Recent, yeah. The EX4, the one of the bottom right of your screen. Yeah, that guy's. This card's an abomination.
Yeah, so we're kind of proofing this for EX7 because EX7 is out, but before the first original real text was seeing Mirage as one of your alternate blues. Obviously, Diana made it so you wouldn't lose Shine, but if Shine wasn't particularly common, then you could actually really start to cut her down to suspiciously low numbers, and Mirage would just be your blue source, and you just go, okay.
We've got, I think I've dropped one of them in our DMs, Andrew, by Ensan Shacho in our chat there. First one I messaged you today. This is oh gosh, I forgot what region this was. This topped, is it Singapore? It won a GAO event, which is why we bring it up, because Galaxy in EX7 BT18 format basically topped 2 GAOs. I got 4th in GAO Japan. It was a sick event. That was fun. And it was playing a Toolbox version that we have a list for, so we'll go over that. And then there was this one. And these are kind of, I would say, broadly speaking, just really good shells to start borrowing. And we can go over the remainder of the tech cards this way. So we've talked about Mirage. We've talked about Apollomon. Those are your 6s most of the time. You use Dianamon as the piece to help facilitate extending that line. But what else can you do? If you just bought a box of EX7, shout out to the Australians. You guys might have Hexeblaumon. Hexeblaumon EX7 is a house. Iceclad Iceclad truly was not supposed to exist in a format with this deck. If you have a functionally infinite number of sources, and Iceclad means you can only lose in battle when you can compare sources, you have just beaten green. They have to have a different way to fight through you for you to lose that point, because combat no longer does it. Its other effect is when Digivolving, trash any 4 Digivolution cards under your opponent's Digimon, which 4 is a good number. Dianamon will frequently do more, but we're kind of here for the next part. Which is then, if your opponent has no Digimon but Digivolution cards, you can bot deck one of their Tamers. This is how you deal with Imperial. This card is fantastic at doing so. Bot decking Daikens is huge. Normally that deck can give you a little bit of trouble. Dragon Mode can floodgate you when you use your egg or your Tamers to Digivolve, which can be a pain in the butt. And they'll source strip you with Daikens, which sucks. But Hexeblaumon flips that on its head, and it really puts the axis of gameplay down to one thing for you to control. And then opponent's a turn, none of your opponent's Digimon with as many or fewer sources as this Digimon can suspend. So go ahead and give this guy 8 sources, and then just stick him there, and watch your opponent not know how to out it.
You bought a deck that Davis Ken's great. If not, that Imperial's never going sideways. It's never turning into Dragon Mode. Oh, it's never turning into fighter mode to try and bot deck it. They're committing all the way up to Pally just to bring you back down to size. But yeah, really, really solid card. It's why, even though Diana, yes, can get you there, like Tom said, 4 sources from under your opponent's Digimon, meaning you can wide strip, you can tall strip, do whatever you really want, then, you know, you don't always need the Diana. Obviously, she's nice, but again, Diana only tall strips, so the Hexablau's really, really flexible. Security attack +1 native is very silly.
So good. This card basically means that you need less Apollomons per game on average to see you win the match. So Hexeblaumon is an all-star in this card, in this deck, and it does a lot for you just in terms of consistency and ways you can interact with different options.
One of the things that's also really nice about it is that your kind of like stupid Apollomon play, like if your Apollomon doesn't pass turn because you've been able to be a bit more memory efficient, then Apollomon check 3 revert turn into Hexablau probably wins games on the spot, because sometimes you had to worry about your sideways Apollomon getting swung over. You probably don't if you have 8 sources, because nothing is going to be able to swing over it. So they do actually have to commit options, which is, you know, this deck's weakness, but that's many decks, like Tool Stack's weakness.
Yeah. Very good card. It synergizes with a lot of what you're already trying to do. I think there's 2 more things we could talk about in terms of like the consistent shell that you see a lot of in the East. There's Haktua Hankuomon himself, the fish level 5. The effect to basically just sort of trivialize your opponent's defensive lines with this card is incredible. How the heck do I... Hunk. Fish.
It's Juan Kun.
That's right. God, I'm so brain damaged. This is a good thing we're behind the paywall, and the BoCo chat doesn't hate it. Where are we at? There he is. Took me a second. God, this card is good. On play, when Digivolving, you may play a level 3 blue Digimon from one of your blue Digimon's Digivolution cards without paying this cost. If you finished with your stack, like let's say you've turned it into Hexeblaumon and your Lunamon is just sort of languishing in there, let it out. Make a Hankuomon when Digivolving on play. Free the Lunamon to open it up to being used next turn. Or immediately start Digivolving again.
Go immediate.
Or use it to start a main. Yeah. And then, God, this effect is so stupid. When attacking as an inherit, by placing one of your other blue Digimon as this blue Digimon's bottom Digivolution card, unsuspend this Digimon. This is another way for you to use Apollomon lethal. It's very good. I recommend it wholeheartedly.
It used to be a thing where you wouldn't really be able to keep turning Apollo unless it was like, you know, swinging first action kind of thing, or, you know, you were able to extend from reverting first. But what this basically allows you to do, and you can see it happen in the Japan GAO, is that the Quankun plays out the Lunamon. You evolve the Lunamon into Galgamon. Galgamon almost definitely will have given them 8 cards.
Yep.
You gain back 1 memory, so it was a 1-cost Evo after doing that. Then that Revert Inherit is live again, because that's a brand new Digimon. Revert gain 2. Oh, you've probably got
+1 in total.
Yeah, you've probably got enough memory to go into Apollo or Hexablau. Swing when attacking, suck up that Lunamon, and it's back just immediately. Yep. Like absolutely no resources. Yeah, sure, you lost your Galgamon to the ether. Who cares? Kill them.
Yeah, you present lethal. It's very good. This card is just, it's one of the blue all-stars. Down the line, this deck is also going to be granted unredirectable soon. And so you'll be able to steal that. So keep your sight. You know, as you go forward learning this deck, you'll just start to see blue and red level 5s in a different light.
Yeah, you will have the Machine Dramon problem, where you stop being able to think about the game properly.
The last thing I think we can cover before we go into another variant is the aces. This deck synergizes with aces super well. Paladin mode is the obvious front runner here. The card's kind of amazing. This deck's real weakness is to things like mill or to decking itself out by dragging too many cards. So you can just go ahead and put your trash away. There is no opportunity cost to doing this. If your first stack makes it back to you and you can strip all your opponent's sources, keep turn, and then just keep playing, please do not be like exceptionally stressed out about the idea that you will lose your discard pile. You are like, in all of the ways that you could be considered a fair deck, you are fair in that you're red and blue. You have basically no discard pile interaction. So go ahead and take them back out, stack them in the order you want them, get your line nice and smooth so that every time if you want to get real mathematical about it, you can make sure that your 4 evolves will all basically double hit every single time by doing this. It's incredibly efficient. Paladin mode is a house. Definitely worth your consideration. There's also Crimson mode. Broadly sees a little bit of less play, but like Burning Security is very strong. And if your opponent it's more of a format read. There's a lot more mill in current Eastern JP format. So
also, if you're playing into purple, one of the things that this deck has historically struggled with, which is why Grace Nova, even though it was kind of a mid card. We don't have protection in this list. Like, if you're playing into purple, you did have to make Grace Nova before you could play the game, because who cares if you have 3 checks if the first check is Light?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this card helps you a lot. Crimson Mode's still useful, but broadly speaking, a little less so. I would say that constitutes a very vanilla core for this deck. Obviously, people will tweak the numbers, people will tweak the ratios, but consider these things when you go ahead and build a toolbox. I'm going to quickly zoom through like a couple things that this BoCo doesn't take forever, because me and Andrew have been recording for a while. There are a couple versions to go through. The most popular out of the gate in EX7. So if you're going to locals this week, you got a Wednesday night locals like I do, and you need something to play. Let's go ahead and strip all the Thomases and the Galgamons and stuff out of there. Let's take all those blue level 6s out of our little list that we made. And let's go ahead and type EX7 into the search bar and click on everything that goes with Dragon Links. Because, gosh, these cards do evolve for 5, but when you use the red Mem setter to go into them for 0, this deck becomes recursive. So let's talk about Volcanic first. I think he's the one that most people are like impressed with. I can't spell today. Gosh.
On play when attacking. Yeah, on play when attacking. What a set of keywords. On play when attacking. The on play is probably not going to be coming up, but
we'll play Hina. Don't worry.
Delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest DP, non-once per turn, and then when Digivolving, your opponent can't play or move Digimon with 6k DP or less until the end of their turn. Then all turns when it would leave the battle other than by your effects, you may play 1 card with Machine Dragon or Sky Dragon trait from your hand without paying cost. So you get floating, and you also get to pop basically everything if you could unsuspend or, trigger several Hinas and then just turn off floodgates just to be safe.
Yeah, it's incredible. There are no bad options for this. Both both metallic Dramons that you can float into do amazing stuff. The second one, the original, is Digivolve 1, and then, God, this is good. None of your opponent's unsuspended Digimon can Digivolve, so if you hate losing to Imperial, you watch them partition and you just can't use their pieces again. God, it's effective.
I can't remember if it turns off hybrids.
Yeah, it's a Digimon, so it's all your opponent's Digimon with a 5 cost or less. None of your opponent's unsuspended Digimon can Digivolve. So hybrid can evolve once, but
yes.
Yeah. But the new metallic Dramon has no such qualm. He's just Digivolve for one of your opponents, and then it's when Digivolving, none of your opponents level 4 or lower can Digivolve until the end of the turn. So very good effects. And again, like, they cost 5 to evolve, but not if you use Ko and Sayo. So the last piece of the puzzle is just like how we talked about Louis was kind of a stopgap to help you get extra memory to use your turns. Hina does the same thing. She is start of your turn if your opponent has a Digimon and play again in memory. She really is kind of generically useful enough like that. But if you want to play a more red-oriented engine, where you're using like other red level 5s to kind of climb into it, one of the other red level 5s that people have on occasion experimented with. Let me pull up my...
Oh, Hina's not yet 7, that's why. Yeah, there's the Hina. One of the things that's also nice about the Hina is, as you'll probably have noticed if you've been around the block long enough, that the general look for 3-cost Tamers is to start of main, gain 1 memory if your opponent so dares is play the game.
Yeah.
Hina gets around that, and the Digimon Emperor that we talked around, because it's like we are a start of main deck as well. Hina gives you start of turn memory just in case Digimon Emperor is there to like poop in the pudding. She cannot have her memory blocked. You can go to 3 and then you can declare your Hina start of turn memory gains. So worst case, you should be able to fight through a Digimon Emperor and still be able to play the game if you have the Hinas to extend. Then of course also her ability to turn on the on plays when Digivolving timing for your Dragon Links cards does mean that you get to use all the funny keywords that just showed up on the cards we just looked at.
Yeah. If you're going to play these cards, you typically want to play them with other red level 5s. So just like how the blue engines steal Huankumons and Galgamons, you will probably be stealing Garudamon. Garudamon Ace lets you play out your Mem Setter, which on play then lets you resolve its effect. So it's very good. You can pay Garudamon, you can play 4 for Garudamon, pop a blocker, play a Tamer, and then the Tamer on play lets you suspend, make an Apollomon essentially, and swing with Blitz. It's an incredible amount of tempo, and something really red only gets to abuse like that. So if you've been wanting a red deck that gets to do some explosive security damage, this is a big way to do it. In some cases, people have even co-opted Garuda X It is when digivolving, return a red card from the trash to the hand, lets you recycle some of those pieces, and then so when a red card is returned from your trash to hand, one of your Digimon gains rush for the turn. So if you've had a chance to create that second body on your turn because something removed it, you can give it rush this way, let it resolve its on attack again, pretty cool. And then the on delete is kind of useful if your opponent's trying to clear your stuff off. This card did see some more success with X-Antibody variants, which is like the dark, this is the cousin that's not invited to the cookout version of this deck. It does not see a ton of tops, but it will likely be something you'll experiment with. I'll go ahead and drop.
That's where it really does become red Toolbox rather than like Galaxy. Yeah.
Here's the last one for you, fella. Oh no, I already sent these. Oh, yeah. My bad. Sorry, dupes in the chat. This is a BT18S deck. So we're gonna go through a couple things here. I always love to see quadruple mem steal insecurity. 3 X-Antibodies and an ice wall is kind of degenerate. But the things this deck gets to do with these cards are very exciting, because playing an X-Antibody just means that in the cycling and climbing that you're going to do while you move your cards around, you'll be able to access like the conditional X-Antibody effect the whole time. And it's an extra source for things that need that. So this deck is playing Metal Garurumon X-Antibody from BT9, Gallantmon X-Antibody from BT9. It's playing a bunch of Omnimon X for basically just using that to evolve with X-Antibody at combat step, which is amazing. Blitz Omnimons, Apollomons for the same thing, where you use X-Antibody to evolve a combat step while you swing with Blitz. And the piece de resistance is they're playing Blitz Greymon. This is do Digivolve stuff, so it gives the deck Digivolve while you climb, but the inherit is a security burn, so you can use this line. This, like, again, we're still doing the same game plans, you're still resolving just a ton of level 4 effect over and over again while manipulating your memory and your draw, but we're going to end it off on burn 4, because who cares? I think that's, broadly speaking, a good overview of the deck. Part of what makes it so strong in the format, I can kind of give you a 2 cents review of this, is that you tend to have I would say, more favored matchup against Imperial. It's weird. I think you are favored. You're going to hear different effects in different people's discussions of this, but as of EX7, Dianamon, Mirage, and Cressamon all do so much for you, where you are able to interact with their security in favorable ways with Mirage. Even Hexeblaumon stops you bot decks the Tamers. And if you have Source Strip, you can deal with their pieces. Don't be an idiot and mess up and play into Primogenitor, because you will get cooked by that insecurity. And be conscious of not triggering Partition or something like that when you attack with Apollomon. But Imperial has a generally kind of tough time interacting with some of the stuff. Like Hexeblaumon is a house, Dianamon is a house. You can get a lot of good value out of that. Dianamon can continue to just reapply that effect over and over again, so they can really get stuck.
We didn't talk about the options.
I didn't talk about the options.
Yeah, Goodnight Moon is something that we used to see a little bit more of than Misplay, which is the option that you saw in the last list. But this one stuns a Tamer and a Digimon, which, popping out of security is crazy, because you could stun a Tamer from suspending, stun a Digimon, and then you get to play any Light Fang Night Claw Tamer, which means, 4-cost memory setter just popped out of security, basically. 4-cost memory setter went sideways and full comboed on their turn. Happens. And then the other one, Recursion, we did talk about it with the Garuda X, but Phoebus also deletes lowest DP, so very similar to that Volcanic, where you do get to, it pops single stacks if they're playing single stack. If they're a bit wider, it becomes a little bit less viable, but it also does allow you to return one Light Fang Night Claw, so if you do need to dig for a piece in your trash, it is something that is quite helpful. 6 play cost is a bit weighty, but at the end of the day, you're usually playing these in order to get some extra value. Goodnight Moon has won me many games by just buying me the extra turn I needed, and Phoebus Blow has been the difference maker for some other players for finding a piece that they need, or allowing them to be a bit more belligerent if they do lose all of their stack and they need something back before they palliate themselves.
Yes. I think in terms of the decks that people want to talk about when they're leaving BT17 and going into EX7, I'll quickly go through some stuff. Generally, the rule is that the deck struggles with aggro, and it struggles with a lot of what purple does. Your Takamikizuchi matchup is horrendous. You're just going to die. Some people just are if you don't play 2 Paladin modes, you're going to lose the game. And I kind of agree with that. You have a really good chance of drawing them, but you can only stall them twice, and it's not always a given that you've won the game by then. You have a great bugs matchup. Just keep stunning them. They don't like that. Numemon being dead is a pretty tight thing for it. Numemon as a whole, as far as the aggro decks go, was a generally favorable aggro matchup for you because you could at least floodgate it with Hexeblau. But it's not gonna matter now because Numemon's bad.
Yep.
Omnimon's messed up and actually gives this deck a lot of trouble. You don't have a lot of great ways to out their 6s when they just sit there, and almost all of your effects past that point are gonna trigger an ace or actually using Mega Knight. So if you see an if you see an Omnimon player, that can give you some trouble. Blue Magna X is super sick for you. That stick to stun lingers, so even if they're immune, you can just stick them with it there. Also, like classically, what gave this deck a Nation 16 was that this deck hunted Magnamon. You would just start a main, make a Grace Nova and own them. I did pretty good at Equal Store Championships doing that. So it's fun times, good hangs. Love the Magna matchup because it's kind of interesting. You have a lot of things you can play around with. You will sometimes lose to just like not having found your blue sources and then just dying to Heaven's Judgment. Yep. But your deck can be big enough to not lose to Heaven's Judgment. So like they'll be like, it's a 24k shrink, and then you don't care.
You're 2k.
Yeah, and then also Hexeblaumon can stop them bringing things out of raising to use Flame Dramon with and apply a reach start Magnamon. So good stuff. Yellow Vaccine was weird. You needed Apollomon to end the game back when this deck was at full power, but now that it's not as prevalent to see its Magnamon engine, it's not as rough for you. But again, you can get bigger than big blockers. Past this, it's like, again, like you'll lose to Red and Blue Hybrid pretty consistently. Aggro will kick your butt. What else is there in the format? Demon Lords is really bad. I think that one's one of those ones that you just gotta hope you dodge.
Yeah, we kind of did say purple decks we're expecting to play into security bombs. The only way that we've ever really been able to play it is by going into Grace Novamon, and we did not talk about him basically at all in this shell because as soon as you deviate from 4 Apollo, 4 Diana as your 6s and you start playing weird stuff, you can only DNA into Grace Nova with
the names.
With the name. You can evolve. You can pay the 6 cost to evolve, but
6 cost.
6 cost. Again, like we talked about before, you can cheat the Evo cost by using the Sio and Co. So like it still probably has like some merit as a one-of.
Oh, sorry. I don't think we actually said that. You can de-digivolve a different Digimon to evolve a separate thing. So if you just got a chump, just turn it down and make something for 0. That's like a cool little spicy tech. Tommy Tricks beats me with that on occasion. It's always a bummer.
Yeah, it's a really nice one, especially when the Hunker is giving you a brand new level 3 to cheaply evolve a 4 over, then suddenly it's a climb target. That's one of your ways to play the purple, but it does require you to kind of, take a slot out that's usable for every other matchup just to make sure that you don't auto lose purple. You'll draw your entire deck, so you'll find it eventually. But
speaking of purple decks, there's Dexter Goromon to talk about. Weirdly, one of the advantages this deck had, especially in the end of EX7 sort of BT18, is that it had an on-paper very favorable purple base Dexter Goromon matchup. It's really easy for you to just keep your Tamers sideways the whole time. And you're huge, and if you really need to stop a taunt, you use Lunamon. But overwhelmingly, they cannot interact with you in a meaningful way. Collision does not solve their problems for them. Apollomon is really good at ending the game when you need to, but like more regularly, you will be solving this problem with Mirage or with Paladin Mode Ace or with Hexeblau, which just, again, like, you just tell them to stop playing for a little while until they have a different way to out you. And like, sure, they can de-digivolve you with the guy in trash, but then they're not protected. So you can make some choices that way. Again, Lunamon, don't forget you can use it to counter taunts. Mirage is funny. You're going to see a lot of Mirage. If you are playing a Mirage version, you are on paper favored into Mirage because you are straight up drawing more cards, and every time they are giving you a card in hand, you are benefiting from that more than they are. It is a really aggressive matchup. Go all in.
Yes, you have to be the first Mirage to. If they Mirage you first, you are drawing more cards. So the taxes it is trickle down economics, and they are very much at the top. You will draw 15 cards and give over 3-4 memory every turn, whereas they will give you back 2. So be there first so they can't make it.
I'm trying to think, like Eosmon and Argomon, like you're not going to see a ton of those. Eosmon's a real deck, but nobody's playing it.
Argomon's probably a little bit more.
They're both pretty bad for you. Unsuspending your Tamers is really important. Let's see. What else is in the meta that I've forgotten? We talked about the hybrids, talked about Omnimon, talked about Dora, Imperial.
And overclock doesn't matter.
Oh, overclock is, yeah, like in some situations, the problem with the Sandralmon is that it actually can cook you because it's like puppet aggro is real. It does beat you down pretty hard and you can't stop it. But they do sure all have no sources. So all those tokens can't attack if you make a single Hexeblaumon.
Yeah.
Like literally just having it, if you have to, you can slam it and they can't use their tokens to attack. They have to overclock.
And that will just be 1 damage every turn as opposed to several.
Yeah. The Fogamon's trickier. It can get pretty big, but you can get bigger, and it's important to try and consistently use that. But don't forget, you can kind of become ice-clad and just never lose in combat. So avoid, what's that? Fail Blow or whatever, the 6-cost green option that bot decks things. It's really good. Avoid that, and then don't lose to Wind Slicer, and then you'll be fine. And then they will Paladin mode you too. Everybody Paladin modes everybody. Welcome to EX7. I can't think of anything else, Andrew. Like, I'm trying to think of other decks that are good right now that like people want to talk about.
I don't think
weirdly, like one of the other ones, like I've been testing it a little bit. Your Mega Zoo matchups are not great consistently, but you do have an above average time against Royal Knights because a single Dianamon that you can just consistently get out, like as long as you're just safe, like they have a hard time killing you if you just sit there on Dianamon for a little while and just keep stopping things with no sources from attacking.
Yeah, that deck
Sorai is good.
Yeah, it like lost to Sorai, and the one thing is when Digivolving went attacking, so like even if you don't source strip anything, if you can just have enough blue sources to be bigger on their turn so a Jessamon can't pop you, and then have jamming so you can't die in security, you just Sorai their board once a turn for 5 turns and win.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. But yeah, obviously Mega Zoo can be weird, but play around that. Muskets is annoying if you check a security bomb, but like go forth and not check security, my son. You'll be alright. I guess that's. I mean, I feel like that's most of everything I want to say. Like the thing is, like, consider your options when you build this deck. Like, as a toolbox oriented playstyle, you can like kind of surprise people in best of 1 cheesiness, but also you can build for consistent lines by just having an incredible amount of card draw. The blue top end is kind of just better at the moment. Apollomon really is the extent to which you're still playing red level 6s, just because he's too good to pass up if he also evolves over blue, and you can revert him later. But experiment with a couple things, test it out for your locals. If you've got a lot of Eosmon Andes or a lot of Demon Lords guys, I don't recommend the deck. But against the things we predict to be really good, which are things like Mirage, Imperial, Magnamon to an extent, Doragoromon, all of those things have a not great time against this deck. So, fun stuff.
Yeah, we would talk about the mono blue version of this with the loop, but this is bonus content, so hopefully by the time it comes out, that deck is on the chopping block.
Please be dead. I don't want that card to do that anymore.
Yeah, but if people ask, members ask for it and they want to see that, or by the time it comes out and the deck hasn't been hit, there's already videos on it publicly available. So
it's been played on stream.
But
it was in Dallas.
Yeah. So if people want to see intricacies of that, let us know. But for the most
this
part,
deck gets better with scrambles too. Sorry, if you're like looking for more reasons to buy these cards, like red and blue scrambles are both good in this deck. So
and we're getting the Mem Boost.
Wisteria is cool in the toolbox version, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I like that card a lot. I have not tested enough of it, but I will be doing so when I no longer have to test EX7.
Yeah, on paper it's good. I mean, if red and black solve Ragnar's problem, red and blue should be able to fix the problems here.
We might not have to play Hinos anymore.
Yeah, we've not been able to run trainings with 50-50 straight down the middle, so hey, we've got something that searches exactly our colors. One day they'll reprint it with Coronamon and Lunamon on the front.
Yeah. Let's see, is there anything else? If you have other... I think we give people pretty good comprehensive. Chances are, the thing about playing this deck is that it's a piloting puzzle. Like, you will get better at it by just repetition. You just need to know when to commit different resources at what times. We could maybe do that down the line if people care. But just get out there and test it at locals. If you have a quirky level 6 guy, like if you're just like, dude, I love Plesiomon, just like go rip it with some Plesiomons, dude. Plesiomon X. And if you play Galaxy Loop with a Plesiomon X in your list, send me a picture. That would be cool. Otherwise, thanks for having me, Andrew. This was fun.
Yeah.
Happy paywall enjoying BoCo users. If you're seeing this in October, it'd be November because we're nearly at October in real life. In real life. Yeah, if you see this in November, you could have seen it in October. So please consider being a channel member. It helps do all the stuff we do.
I plan on getting this out tonight.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Play this deck. It's good.
Oh.
I hope I can find my cards. I lost them.
You just borrow mine.